Hi everybody, this is a conversation with Culture Club in response to The Time Is Always Now. So first off, if you can just say who you are and what your experience with Culture Club has been. So firstly...
Okay, so my name's Daryl Codrington, and I became aware of Culture Club through a call out for people with a lived experience of racism within Plymouth to interrogate the gallery and the archives.
Perfect. And moving on to my second fellow Culture Club member, who is?
Hello, my name's Rudolph Archer, and I became aware of Culture Club through word of mouth. So I was aware of the work they were doing with the box, and I thought it was very interesting to be looking at the archiving as well. So I managed to track them down and I joined.
And we're very grateful he did track us down, not only for his cooking, but also because he's brought an added dimension to Culture Club. So, guys, I've asked you here today because I'm really interested in finding out about your experiences with this exhibition. And so perhaps I'll hand it over to you to just tell the audience why we're sat here as a threesome in terms of the exhibition and yourselves. Shall we start firstly with Daryl?
So I became aware of the exhibition at a Culture Club meeting where we were discussing forthcoming exhibits, and the box very kindly gave us the opportunity to travel to London to see the exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery before it came to Plymouth, before it travelled to Plymouth. So we had a really good chance to look at the paintings and think about what it meant to us, for London and for Plymouth.
Perfect. And Rudolph, I think this was your first kind of outing as a Culture Club member. Do you think it was valuable to see the exhibition both in London and here?
Yes, I do. The National Portrait Gallery is such a vast institution. I thought, what will this exhibition be like in such a large place? And I've been to a few exhibitions there before, and sometimes the things I've been to, Grayson Perry, I went to see something that he'd done there, and it was quite overwhelmed by everything else.
Could you just describe, just for people who potentially haven't been to the National Portrait Gallery, when you say it's large and big, are you talking in terms of quantity of the pictures or just the vastness of the building?
Both.
Okay.
Both, very much. There are so many galleries. How many floors? I'm not sure how many. I would
so
say
there's galleries within galleries?
Within galleries, yes.
Okay.
And at least 2 floors, possibly 3.
Right, okay.
And so if you wanted to, you could go and look at the Royals all day. In Trafalgar Square, you can see this vast building in front of you, and as is all the square, it's very grand. I'm not sure how many 100 years old it is, and you go into this massive entrance, and you can go in many directions to find the gallery that you're looking for. And when I've been there in the past, I remember we were looking for a Grayson Perry exhibition, and I think it was on the 2nd or 3rd floor that we eventually found it in one of the smaller galleries.
Okay.
But when we went to The Time Is Always Now, it was on the ground floor, and I remember a very ornate doorway that you had to go through to get in, and you could only get in if you paid to get in and arrive in your time slot.
Oh, okay. So can I ask you, Daryl, how that felt in terms of, Rudolph just spoke about the architecture and whether that added to this almost colonial aspect of a building, and then you having to pay to get in, and this allotted time, so how that impacted on your experience.
Well, it impacted on my experience because we arrived 2 minutes early and we weren't allowed in until the 2 minutes had elapsed.
Oh.
But space, because there are so many exhibits at the National Portrait Gallery, space is at a premium. It's quite limited, which certainly affected how some of the objects were displayed. The Kerry James Marshall paintings were rather clustered in a little corridor, for example. You couldn't see around the statues or the castings at all.
Okay, so they were almost too...
They were against a wall.
Oh, right, okay.
And of course, the biggest thing, which the box has over the National Portrait Gallery, is in Plymouth. You can see the exhibits for free. Okay,
and do you think, that aspect is something that changes the exhibition?
It's a barrier. It's a barrier. So some people really would not be able to afford to see the exhibits. They wouldn't be able to pay the entry fee.
And Can I add to that?
Yeah, please do.
I mean, there's the cost implications. So obviously, National Portrait Gallery is in central London.
Yeah.
And to get to central London, I'm going to guess it's going to cost you around £10.
Okay.
And then you've got to pay the entrance fee, which I think was 15-ish pounds. So.
And you said for that you were allotted a time slot, so you couldn't stay there all day or go back and access.
That's right.
Okay, so very time limited in what you saw.
And then to get yourself a tea or coffee.
Okay.
So you're into about £30.
So potentially a barrier for people.
Definitely a barrier.
Accessing.
And the sculpture, some of it wasn't because some of it, one object is so large, so impressive.
Yeah.
You have to be able to walk around it.
Okay. So do you think it had the same impact in London as it has in the southwest at the box? And we'll speak more about how the box has presented that exhibition, but in terms of how you both felt after leaving the exhibition, I'm interested in which you felt had more impact.
I think you can look at that in different ways.
Yeah.
So when I looked up the exhibition, because I was going to it, every different newspaper, magazine, everything had it in because it was at the National.
Yeah.
And they all had a review of it.
And on the tube.
And,
okay.
And when they opened, they had a circus out the front. I was speaking to one of the artists who attended the exhibition, and he said, "Oh, they haven't got the circus here. That's good."
Right. Okay.
So I guess, it being in London and the wealth of London and everything brought that. But then when you come here, you can come as many times as you like. I looked at the publications.
Yeah.
And I saw Exeter, I saw Bristol, I saw Somerset. All of these papers also talked about the exhibition. So the ripple effect has definitely gone out there. And speaking to people here, people have come for the day. In fact, there were some people from Birmingham that came for the day to see the exhibition. So, it works on different levels. For me, it's worked better here.
Okay, and I'm interested, Daryl, asking a specific question, and I know it's total subjecture on my part, but do you think that people in London who potentially are from poorer demographics, and isolated pockets got to see this and experience this exhibition? Or do you think, even though it's on the tube and it was reviewed, that it had the impact on everybody in society?
I think probably not. I think probably it could and should have had a real impact on people's lives, but they probably were excluded, both by the environment and the cost. When I was growing up, I was unfortunate enough to grow up in the 70s, and representation of black people was nil. There's Derek Griffiths and some comedians, but mostly the only time you got to see a black person on telly was if it was there'd been a mugging. Yeah. And then there was plenty of opportunity to see black people, but that was the only time to see an exhibition about the representation of black people by black people. It's just extraordinary. And the world has changed, or at least the way that people can access information about themselves, about their identity, about connection. It's just extraordinary. But I reckon that many people who could perhaps have benefited wouldn't have been able to see it.
I mean, on a personal level, had the box probably attached a ticket price to this, I probably wouldn't have accessed it. And I did access it, and it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like this. I'd never seen beauty, I'd never seen realness, I'd never seen, dare I say it, the just expertise on show of the artist, the variety, everything about it was almost, it was 2024, and it was almost like the first time I walked in somewhere and felt really, really proud to be part of this community, and that this community was to be shared with everybody, because we should be in this story as much as anyone else. It was, yeah.
And what a coup for Plymouth.
Absolutely.
A magnificent feat for Plymouth.
Yeah.
You know, two places in the country that this amazing artwork can be seen.
Yeah.
One in London and second in Plymouth. I mean, it's absolutely amazing.
And I think also, you were right, Rudolph, people were coming outside of area, people from the art world, people not from the art world. I think I've spoke to more members of the public about this exhibition than I have about any other exhibition that we as Culture Club have been involved in. And I'm really happy to say I have seen a real footfall of people from diverse communities accessing, and I think that's the power of these types of exhibitions, is we can try and promote diversity, but actually having
and inclusivity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you were talking earlier about the statue, which I want to ask Rudolph about, because I remember seeing this statue with you after hearing how much you loved this statue, and then I saw you in front of this statue, and you were still like, this is seeing it in the context here. So I just wanted you to really just if you can explain what that meant to you and your family, especially having a young daughter.
I feel fortunate that I've been around Europe and I've seen many of the classic pieces of sculpture. So I've seen David.
Right. Okay.
And I've never seen any black figure depicted like that.
Yeah.
That could just stand alone and you would go just to see that figure.
Yeah.
So that's what that figure is for me. And I'm not trying to say the art in making it is as good as David, but it doesn't need to be. And I think that's the whole point, that it's just about people being depicted in a way that they see themselves and think, wow, look at that, that's magnificent.
Yeah.
My daughter just was in awe. There stood this proud black woman, braids all the way, which makes it even more incredible that they didn't show the back of it in London.
Okay.
Because it's like such an important part. Black women's hair is so, right now it's being talked about again as women have their hair, leave it alone, it's nothing to do with anyone else. And here it is, bang. So,
it's heroic.
It is, yeah.
So we're sat in St Luke's gallery at the minute, and I think it's this gallery. There's kind of it's a church-like building. It's got this kind of quietness to it, and I just wondered how you think the staging and the lighting has impacted on seeing these pictures, again, seeing them at the MPG and here, and how they differ.
I think initially the space gives room for the paintings, the artwork, sculpture to breathe, and for you to think about each before you move on to the next. There's time. But they're clustered in interesting ways as well. So there's discussions about European representation, changing that perspective. They're grouped together. There's colour, the way that colour is handled, representation, reclaiming colour, gender issues, and obviously a group of paintings which are pretty horrific, that reflect like the Tulsa Race Massacre. And there's room to step back and really think about that.
So this, we should say, the box has housed this exhibition in, I guess, 3 main areas. So the St Luke space, there's the space at the statue, the golden lady takes up, and then there's the exhibition in the main building. Now for me, actually one of the artists is on the front of the cover of this book. I was astounded by, you enter and you see the picture, and then the closer you get to the picture, the more that is comes to light. So could you just, I'd like to know, did you notice it all when you first saw it in this painting, or was it again having the space to see it, whether that changed what you saw within the picture, within itself?
In London, the lighting was much brighter, much more uniform, and because your visit was timed and you had to pay, it was impossible to see everything. But I've been back several times to see it here in Plymouth, and it gives you the time and space and room to focus and think about detail, to step back, to look at the overall image.
I mean, we walked in earlier, and actually, as you walk into this space, there's a collection of pictures by an artist, and they are collage pieces of body parts, specifically noses, lips, if I remember correctly, and ears. And we all came in, and I was like, the more I looked at these, the better they became. Rudolph's response was, I didn't like them when I first saw them. And then your response was very, oh, really? And it made me think, having the chance to view these things more than once, people shouldn't underestimate how important it's been, I think, having it in a venue that's free. Because I think all of us probably saw all of these pieces and had a decision or a thought about them, and then the more you view them, I guess the more you see, and in particular, I wanted to ask you just before we round up, there are British artists, African artists, and American artists, and again, there's a section in St Luke's which I found really challenging when I first saw them, and then I looked deeper and saw some really wonderful references. You were talking about gender issues earlier and sexuality, and I just thought, I'd like to know your comments on, do you think the exhibition has portrayed almost nearly every nuance of what it means to identify as somebody of the black and brown persuasion, and whether you think it's really included things that perhaps maybe people would have thought were off the table? Or
for me, I think it's open discussion. Privately, you may think some things, but they're kind of repressed or diminished in a wider society. People really don't want to talk about that sort of thing, or you're seen as a little bit whingy, maybe. But some of the artists have made some statements, which I can certainly identify with, and it's refreshing to see those statements made so openly. And it opens discussion and debate.
Definitely. And for yourself?
I would agree it opens discussion. I wouldn't say it's touched all the different subjects. As I look around the gallery, I'm thinking there's no young people. So it's nearly all adults that the art is of. And there are when you've got this type of art, a lot of this type of art, that is challenging European perceptions of black people, then I was asking myself the question, if you could get black artists who weren't influenced by what had come in Europe, what would they paint? What would they depict? So I think this has opened my eyes to how much there is actually out there. And hopefully we'll draw more of it to the southwest where we are. So that we can see all these different nuances, and as it sort of flows into every day, we'll see, I don't know, black, other European, Asian, all depicted together, maybe when they're talking about the same subject.
So lastly, I'd just like just to see, do you think that the exhibition will translate in the same way across the transatlantic? Because it is going to Philadelphia and North Carolina. And again, this is just me asking a random question, but how do you...
I would love to be a fly on the wall. And even here, sometimes I've sat on some of the benches that were here when I've just been looking at particular, and I've seen people whiz past stuff, and I'm thinking, well, how could you go so quickly past that piece of art? It's telling you so much, and so I'm thinking, especially North Carolina, because it being a more southern place, will it mobilise the black community there? Will they go and see it en masse? Or will it remain a bit more like it was in London, say, where it's a bit more of a middle-classy experience? That's what I wonder about it. That's why I'd like to be a fly on the wall, to see what goes on.
And yourself, Daryl?
A lot of the artists are American. So I think it should resonate because some of those ideas, some of those discussions were created by the American environment, like the Tulsa race massacre. But it will be different. I'm sure it will be different. And so that would be interesting.
I think for me, the most interesting thing would be the ability that younger people, I know there would have been lots of primary school, probably children have accessed this exhibition here. I'd really be interested to see if the experiences of predominantly white European children, and I think possibly more children from the black and minority ethnic, how they see it and translate it in their... I know, for instance, there's been a really great project where people have done their own portraits, children have done, I think all through the summer. It would be wonderful to see on a snapshot if the same thing was happening there. Is what's being kind of experienced by the young less about colour because of how they grow up and access to this. And so, yeah, so I guess what's left to say is thank you for sharing your experiences.
Thanks, Léonie.
With us. And I'd like to think potentially we can try and set up some kind of link somewhere with some of with the art galleries, but we don't know. Hint of maybe that's another culture club special. Is there anything or any one piece you would like to highlight before we end our discussion today?
Gosh, no, all of it. It's the collection for me.
Yeah.
I love some of it. I absolutely can't see some. I look at some of it and I think, what are you thinking of? But I like the challenge.
Yourself?
I was a fan of Kerry James Marshall for a long time, and to see them up close, it's just such a treat.
For me, I'm going to have to... Kerry James Marshall is the first picture I saw of this exhibition when I walked in, and I never have I seen, personally, a figure so beautiful who looked at me just every time I look back at the picture. And I've been in this building several times with several exhibitions, and I've never, ever, ever understood why people stand and really analyse and look at works of art, because nothing had ever resonated with me. And that picture was the first thing I've ever seen that I understood. And each time I come and see it, I love it more and spend more time with it. So, yeah. So from Culture Club, this was a conversation with Daryl Codrington, Rudolph Archer, and myself, Léonie Prentice.